So this is the LG C2 55-inch. It's actually the second LG C2 that I've had and unboxed and reviewed, but it is massively different. So today we're going to take a look at why on the LG C2 size matters. So usually when comparing TVs that are the same model but a different size, the only difference is the size. Now this year on the LG C series, that is actually very different. The C2 has announced new sizes and there's a lot of differences between them. The 55, 65 and 77 inches are all meant to be very similar. And from everything I've seen, they are pretty much, and the only difference for them is the size. But the 48 inch is a bit of a red herring. Now what do I mean by that? Well, for some reason LG I think have been quite lazy with the 48 inch. Now because I've had both of these TVs, I'm going to break down for you every difference between the 55 inch C2 and the 48 inch C2 and why you might want to strongly consider whether or not it's worth buying one of them. So as much as design wise almost everything is new on the LG C2, on the 48 inch it's pretty much exactly the same. For the last few years, we've had pretty much the same shell of a TV on the C series. But the 48 inch C2 is also that same design. You've got that massive arse at the back with the ridiculously thin TV at the top. And people like that, it's a nice design. But I do think they've made improvements on the C2 on the other sizes. Now just because the design of the 48 inch C2 is the same, the rest of it is different. It's still a C2. Right? Well, putting the 48 inch and the 55 inch side by side, it's easy to see what the differences actually are. First of all, the stand is different. The 55 inch has the new centre mounted stand, which is a lot smaller. The 48 inch has the wider stand of previous years. The back has a new different design on the 55 inch, but it is that same big arse that you get on the 48 inch. On the 55 inch, all of the ports are on one side, which makes it a lot easier to access all of your ports if you're planning on wall mounting the TV. On the 48 inch, you get that split where there's some on the back and some on the side. Now there are two differences in physical appearance between the 48 inch C2 and then the C1, and that is the little infrared sensor at the bottom of the screen. That's wider to accommodate the hands-free voice control, and there is an IR blaster port on the back, which means you can get the TV to send infrared signals to other devices using that feature. Now one of the differences between the C1 and the C2, which is the same between the 48 inch and the 55 inch, is the fact that the power cable is fixed on the side of the TV, which means if you're using the cable management, you're going to have to waste a lot of that wire getting to the cable management before being able to reach any plugs. On the 55 inch, that is in the center of the TV, which means you can just pull that straight out through the cable management system and you've got a lot more wire to work with. And one of the biggest design differences, I think, is actually the weight. So the 55 inch C2 uses this new design that has made the TV so much lighter. Now some of this is to do with the materials used in the panel, and some of this is to use with the materials of the actual casing. The stand is lighter, the material at the back is lighter, therefore the TV is lighter. Now the weight of the 55 inch TV, including the stand, is 15.8 kilograms, which is a massive reduction on last year's C1. Now what is bizarre is that the 48 inch C2 is 18 kilograms with the stand. So it's actually a smaller TV in a heavier shell. And it is very obvious when you're trying to move these TVs around and set them up that this is the case. Despite the 48 inch being smaller, it would be much harder to set up and wall mount on your own. And as much as I don't recommend ever wall mounting a TV by yourself, you probably could do that with the 55 inch, which is bizarre. Now this gets me on to some of the performance differences. And the fact that the weight is different is a bit of a red flag. Now if you've been watching my videos and you've been looking a lot into these new panels, one of the reasons for the weight loss is because the LG C2 is meant to be using a different material inside the Evo panel. That's because they're using a material that would be heavier, make the panel heavier, and that should now be a lot lighter. Now there's been a lot of talk around about how the 48 inch isn't performing to the same way that the C2 is. So have LG lied to us about the 48-inch C2. Look, it was made clear by LG that the 42-inch and the 48-inch LG C2s were not going to be as bright as the rest of them, and I have to agree, that is one of the main differences between these two things, is that the brightness on the 48-inch is actually a lot lower than the brightness on the 55-inch, and the brightness on the 48-inch is actually identical to the C1. There hasn't been a jump there. Now, listen to my theory. Because of the, in my opinion, lazy design of the 48-inch, but it does have the new features of the C2, this is what I think LG have done. I think that they've taken the new processor, the A9 Gen 5, and some of the new features like the hands-free voice control and the new software, and they've put that into the 48-inch C2. But what they haven't done is actually change any of their physical differences. And you might be saying, Sam, that's not true at all. But I want to clear something up. Now, the 48-inch is marketed as an LG C2 Evo, same as the G1 last year and the rest of the C2 this year. But Evo doesn't actually mean the physical panel. The marketing term Evo is precisely that. It's just a term that LG use for marketing. It's actually a combination of the panel and the processing that goes into making that panel shine the way it shines and handle the colours the way it handles them. Now, the colours on the 48-inch are a lot better than last year, similar to how the 55-inch colours are better. So I think what LG have done is take the processor and the new software and use that to make the C1 better on that 48-inch. Think about it. Everything is the same, the materials are the same, the weight is the same. The only differences I can tell are the actual new features and how the colours have been handled. And I also think that people are starting to catch on. As good as the new features are, why would you buy this TV when you can get the 48-inch C1 so much cheaper? And to show you what I mean, I'm on the Amazon website here in the UK, and there are some odd differences in the prices. So you have the 55-inch at £1,900, which is what it is everywhere else. The 48-inch on these websites was £1,400. And the 42-inch was also £1,400, which I think annoyed a lot of people that the prices were the same. On Amazon, you can now get the 48-inch C2 for £1,140. So you're telling me that this TV that's bigger than the 42-inch is £250 cheaper? That is just a bit bizarre. And ultimately, I think they've tried to sell us the C1 again to get rid of all of their leftover panels, and we've caught on to it. So guys, just to summarise my points again, the 48-inch C2 is a better TV than last year's C1. It has a better processor, it handles the colours better, and it's got a lot of new features. But the design is exactly the same, the weight is exactly the same, and I think the physical panel on the inside is also exactly the same. The 55-inch is lighter, the 55-inch looks nicer, the 55-inch is brighter. So if you are wanting to get the improvements of the C2, then you might want to give the 48-inch a miss. That being said, if the reason why you want the C2 is the better colours and the new features, then actually it is surprisingly cheap for a brand new TV. So guys, go check my links below to see exactly what the TVs cost where you are. And if you've got any opinions on these TVs, put them in the comments. I'd love to hear them, and I'll see you in the next one.